Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I thought I'd present to you some of my collection of Conan. Now, Conan subsequently became popularized with the moniker Conan the Barbarian as a result of the publication from Marvel Comics. These are the first Lancer paperbacks. Conan appeared earlier in a double, I believe it's D36, where he sported a cover drawn by Norman Saunders. These covers are drawn by Frank Frazetta. This is Conan the Adventurer #1, as it says, Volume 1. The intention was to publish a series of Conan paperbacks, and it features these stories: The People of the Black Circle, The Slithering Shadow, The Pool of the Black One, and Drums Mtumbaku, according to this, never before published. So that's the first one, and this is the second one. This has the famous short story, The Frost Giant's Daughter. I believe it shows in here. Yeah, 53, and that's what you see on the cover, basically. So that's #2. And that also sports a Frazetta cover. This is number 3, Conan the Freebooter. Some of these stories were rewrites of other Robert E. Howard stories from the pulps. Of course, Conan appeared, I believe it was in the early 1930s, in the pages of Weird Tales, and all of his adventures were eventually published. Altogether, there were one novel and altogether 13 Conan stories. So this is number 3 of Lancers, Conan the Freebooter. And this is the Lancer paperback, Conan the Warrior. This one features cover art by Frazetta. And this one has the first published, I think it was before the hardcover Gnome Press series, which was published back in the 1950s. I think this is the first time that it was published in paperback. So it's called Red Nails, and that's a Robert E. Howard Conan story. So that's Conan the Warrior. And this one also sports a Frazetta cover. This is Conan the Buccaneer. And this one is an original novel by L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter. We'll just look through some of them. Let's see. Look at the publication here. Yeah, it gives you information of where they were originally published. And it shows you a map. This map was actually created by Robert E. Howard. Basically, a map that was superimposed over Europe and parts of Southeast Asia. All right, so that's Conan the Buccaneer. This is Conan the Usurper. And these were all eventually reprinted by Ace Books. And I'll show you some of those. This is Conan of the Isles, number 12. This is Conan the Adventurer. This is number 10. Some are numbered, some are not. This is the Ace edition, July 1981, and the original copyrights from 1968 when the Lancers came out. This is Conan the Conqueror. Yeah, this one is a Boris Vallejo cover. This one is a Frazetta cover, and this is a Frazetta cover. This is number 9. Somebody wrote that out there. And here's number 8. Another beautiful Frazetta cover. There's another, this is the Sphere edition. This is the British edition of Conan the Warrior, one you saw earlier, with a Frazetta cover. Here's another edition. This is the Ace of Conan the Warrior. Here's another of Conan the Buccaneer. And this is the Sphere edition of Conan the Adventurer, the first one in the series, Sphere. Yeah, nobody dares touch those covers. This is Conan the Wanderer, number 4. And you saw earlier Conan the Freebooter, Conan of Samaria, and this is the first one. And I believe that's Tower of the Elephant cover, and that's Frazetta's artwork. We'll just flip through it here. Yeah, it's the Tower of the Elephant. If you've read the story, you'll know what this means. One of the unique things about Robert E. Howard is he was inspired by his friend and co-author in the pages of Weird Tales, H.P. Lovecraft. And many of his stories feature the elements of fear and horror that you tend to see in Lovecraft's stories and the mythos of Cthulhu. And I think that was one of the major influences on the writings of Robert E. Howard. In subsequent years, many people became disillusioned with the embellishments made by L. Sprang de Camp and Lynn Carter. And they decided to come out with a purer editions of Robert E. Howard's work. And really, really and truly, the one who really started that kind of research into Howard's pure editions of work was a fellow lover of sword and sorcery fiction, a man named Carl Edward Wagner. And he came out with this series. This is not a Robert E. Howard story. I believe the artist is Kelly Jones. But it also features this wonderful pullout that you see in these paperbacks, which is unique. You don't have too many paperbacks that have that kind of show in their within the pages of their book. Here's another one. This is the Swords of Shahrazar, and again, it features that wonderful pullout, and you see the signature of the artist. So that's that. It's Kelly who did the artwork for this. And here's the only novel of Conan that was ever written. And this is The Hour of the Dragon. and features beautiful pull-out section. It's basically a wraparound cover. You see Conan in all his brutal glory. So that's that. It's the Hour of the Dragon. And as it says, this is the authorized edition. So it offers a pure version of the original stories uh, as intended by the author Robert E. Howard, and the estate at that time was controlled by Glenn Lord. As you see, this is the authorized edition, Carl Edward Wagner. Carl Edward Wagner is famous for creating his own series character, a very dark and amoral character. I think he modeled after the Man with No Name westerns uh, that came out in the late 1960s, um, directed by Sergio Leone and starring Clint Eastwood. The Kane character has you almost sense bereft of any kind of sense of justice or morality. He's a very dark and grim character who can take the part of a hero and an evil villain with equal acumen. This is what he looks like. This is from one of Carl Edward Wagner's novels. This one's called Bloodstone, and again, it features beautiful cover art and work by Frank Frazetta. So that's that, and then Edward Wagner also did this one. It's called Red Nails, and this is the complete. It was really a novella that was published in the pages of Weird Tales in the 1930s, and it has the K.W. Kelly signature and pull-out page, beautiful cover, wraparound cover, very graphic and very violent. You don't see that too often in modern paperbacks. Anyway, so that's that one. And just look through here. This one also features interior artwork. Let's see. Oh, I thought it did. Anyway, oh, here it is. This is actually from the original pulp. Yeah. So there's the copyright. This is a Berkeley Medallion Editions. And again, cover art from the original pulp. All right, so that's that. And there were subsequent editions that came out that were probably the best and most definitive, and that's published by Del Rey Books. And it features excellent artwork throughout. It's fully illustrated. Each story has illustrations from the story. And this basically tells you the origin of the publication of Conan the Barbarian. Lovingly restored stories, and in chronological form, actually, of when they were originally published. So 1933, 1932, Phoenix and the Sword, and other types of stories. So from 1932, as I shared in a previous episode when I covered King Kull and the origins of sword and sorcery, I mentioned that the first Sword and Sorcery story was written in 1929. So this is the coming of Conan the Cimmerian, and the art is exquisite. Beautiful edition, and really one of the best uh, artistic editions of the Conan stories. So that's that, the coming of Conan the Cimmerian. This is from Rogues in the House. I thought it was the Tower of the Elephant, but this is Rogues in the House. Sorry. Anyway, so that's Conan, the coming of Conan the Cimmerian, the first of the Conan definitive editions, and this is the Bloody Crown of Conan. It says who the illustrators are. It's Gary Gianni. So that's that. Shows what stories are published here. The novel, Hour of the Dragon, The People of the Black Circle, a novella, and A Witch Shall Be Born. Plus untitled synopses. I mean, literally everything that Howard wrote on Conan is published in these volumes. So there's 3 volumes in total. This is, I can flip through to show you some of the artwork, which is, again, is exquisite work. Unique to the artist, to the style of the artist, but exquisite work. So that's the Bloody Crown of Conan. Then we have the Conquering Sword of Conan. And this one has painted style artwork throughout the text. These are lovingly restored editions of Howard's work. Exquisite action scenes. It makes the reading of these volumes thoroughly enjoyable and respectful for the art of the artist and the writer, of course, Robert E. Howard. So it has the Servants of Bidyakan, Beyond the Black River, Black Stranger, Man-Eaters of Zambaula, and of course the novella Red Nails. So that's the Conquering Sword of Conan. I also wanted to show you some of I do have, and I can show a copy of the first Marvel appearance of Conan. But I'll show you the Dark Horse reproductions, which are, again, done beautifully, actually. So this is the cover of number 1 of the Marvel series, which features art, of course, by Barry Windsor Smith, and the writing chores, of course, is by Roy Thomas. So you see The Coming of Conan. You see, based on the character by Robert E. Howard. Initially, they were original stories written by Thomas, but eventually they managed to get the rights to reproduce some of his stories, Robert E. Howard's actual stories, like Red Nails, for instance. So there you go. These are best editions if you want reading copies and you don't want to wreck your original comic books. These are the best editions to get. And as any good artist, the work Panel by panel, the work of a good artist just improves over time. Panel by panel. So this is volume 1. This is again published by Dark Horse. These are wonderful editions, actually. This is volume 2. Of course, this features the cover is from the Robert E. Howard story, The Frost Giant's Daughter. And it also has one of the first that I ever read, Rogues in the House. So, yeah, this is one of the first ones I read. This is Rogues in the House. Very violent. This is where Conan confronts Thak, the wizard's evil protege. So there you go, that's number 2. And number 3 has a story that claims to be plotted by Michael Moorcock. But actually Moorcock claims that I read somewhere that James Cawthorne was the real plotter to this story. Anyway, this is where Conan meets with Elric of Melniboné, who makes a sudden appearance in the story. And then here he is. So that's the first time that Elric appeared in the pages of comic books. And the look of Elric with that peaked hat is not in accord with Moorcock's tastes. He didn't think he was well depicted in this story. So there you go. That's Elric of Melniboné in Conan. That's volume 3. And this is volume 4. This one demonstrates kind of the evolution of Barry Smith's artwork. And if you look inside, it actually becomes more detailed with a beautiful panoramic detail that you don't see in modern comic books this day and age. So that's that. Beautiful work. It also features the Red Nails story adapted by Roy Thomas and Barry Smith, which was actually published originally in black and white in the pages of The Savage Sword of Conan, which I'll show you in a minute. So that's that one. And here's The Savage Sword. And this is the, again, Dark Horse, all in black and white. This was aimed more for an adult audience. This is The Frost Giant's Daughter. And let's see, I believe it's this here. It's the Red Nails. Yeah, this is Red Nails. This is how it appeared. You can see how Smith's artwork is, again, just very detailed, both in the facial expressions and in the backgrounds. one of the best stories actually ever printed in comic book art. So that's that, and so those are the books that I wanted to show, especially the Del Rey books and Carl Edward Wagner's editing of the original stories by Robert E. Howard, which I consider some of the best. Now, sadly, Carl Edward Wagner died before his stories could be fully restored, and his character of Cain, which is really one of the most oddest characters ever in sword and sorcery fiction. Unlike Elric, who's probably the closest clone to Cain, Elric always maintained a sense of justice, even though he was a flawed character. He was never one to compromise on his standards. He fought usually for himself, but usually also for another. Usually for Cimero or Zerzinia or one of his friends, the Red Archer. He was always one who never worked alone. The difference between Cain and Elric is that Cain was really a loner, more in line with Conan. Conan was more of a loner, and who fought for what was the right thing to do, but never. The thing about Robert E. Howard's work is that he's not concerned with ethics or morality. He's concerned with telling a good story and making the reader engaged in the story. All right, so that's my little presentation on Conan, and I hope you enjoyed this look. And in the future, perhaps I'll show you some of the original comic books, Conan comic books. And if you did enjoy it, always remember to give the like. And thanks everyone for subscribing and continuing to subscribe. And feel free to comment with anything, or maybe even your favorite artists of all the Conan books and stories. And one of the things that's great about Conan is that he had great artwork, from Barry Smith to the work of John Buscema, and as you saw from the Del Rey editions, some beautiful artwork by all kinds of great artists who enjoy the freedom of having to paint fantastic literature. All right, thanks, bye.